Hey, Pastor Ray Barnett here with you. Glad that you could be with me here on the Oasis. And as always, I wish you a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you're watching this broadcast. Needless to say, it's another beautiful day here in upstate New York. And I'm down here where I was yesterday, but in a different location. Behind me here is part of the Erie Barge Canal, where I told you yesterday. Back in the 19th century, these barges would come in and they would dock. Let me see if I can show you a little picture. You see the walls where the canals would, the barges would come in and they would cross. I'll show you the store. They would cross over a little bridge and buy their supplies right there in the Putman's grocery store. Give you a little view of the Mohawk River as well. Yeah, it's just quite a beautiful location we're in here. All right. So, with that little tiny bit of history, I will start today's broadcast by asking you this question. What is your emotional IQ? Now, chances are that you're not going to know. I don't know what type of tests they give nowadays to test an emotional IQ, which frankly doesn't make much sense because IQ means intelligent quotient, but you get the picture. Let me give you an example. Obviously, I deal with a lot of people. One of the things that I look for when I'm talking to someone is how their biological age is a given, because maybe I'll ask them just, well, how old are you now? And it could be 40s, 50s, 60s, it could be 70s or 80s. But if you touch on certain subjects, you hit the proverbial nerve, and you can actually see, I'll pick 70 as just a number. You can see a 70-year-old act like a 7-year-old. Just in one area, maybe more than one area. Other than that, biologically, psychologically, they're pretty much their age. But not everyone has, not everyone has advanced to the point where their emotions match their biological age. I'm going to leave off psychological age, because that's actually what emotional IQ is all about. Are you psychologically as old and mature as you should be at whatever your age is? I think most people are not. Not through any fault of their own, they're not. As I just mentioned, you can touch on a certain nerve on a certain subject, and all of a sudden you watch this person revert back to a 10-year-old, 12-year-old. I've actually asked myself, first of all, I say, well, okay, this person that I'm dealing with, how old are they emotionally? Because that's what's really important. Or there had been on occasions where I would ask someone, how old do you think you are emotionally? And the point of that was to bring out, let's say, again, let me say 40-year-old. To point out that at 40 years of age, you're still acting like you're 10, sometimes younger. I would ask this question of people from time to time, how old do you think you are emotionally? And they would take a guess. And some of them are honest. They say, well, I think I'm about 17, 18 emotionally. And I say, well, I don't know. I think you're maybe closer to 7, 8, 9 years old in this area. Emotions, let's look at good emotions. You get some good news and you're filled with joy. Well, you want to accent that as much as you want. Baby's born. Good news. And so you want to enjoy that for as long as you can. You can enjoy that emotion of joy for as long as you want. You can, in one sense, work it up to, or wherever you want, because it's good. It's okay. But when it comes to anger and fear and bitterness and envy and hate, and just keep on going down that line, you don't want to remain emotionally immature. Now you may be asking at this point, what does that have to do with mental health? But if you just give it just a little bit of thought, you'll see that it has everything to do with mental health. For example, you have symptoms, right? The majority of you who watch this program have physical symptoms, physiological symptoms. The whole gamut of everything we talk about, from palpitations to nausea and vomiting and trembling, sweaty hands, sweaty armpits. It goes on, the list goes on. Once you begin to respond emotionally with fear and anger, and those two I'd like to accent a lot because they're the two primary culprits in making your symptoms worse. Once you begin to act emotionally, you can be out of control. It can lead to a hysteria, which is definitely detrimental to your health, primarily mental health, or just make your symptoms worse. They're going to increase in their intensity, and they're also going to increase in their duration, emotions. So I don't want to lump emotions into every emotion is bad. That's not true, right? There's good emotions, joy and other things. And then there are these emotional responses to symptoms and to your problems and to your condition that are not at all helpful. But worse than not being helpful, they're absolutely detrimental. So if you and I were just sitting here in this beautiful spot, and I asked you the question, how old are you emotionally? What would your guess be? Maybe you're spot on when you say, well, I think I'm whatever. And my guess would be, though, most times you're not aware of the fact that in this area, in that area, these things that trouble you, these nervous symptoms, these troubling thoughts, and so on, that your emotional IQ is low. What that means to me, or I should say what that should mean to you, is that there's an area where you've been stunted emotionally and you've never grown. For example, let's say there was some type of serious trauma in your life, whatever that may be. And at that point, psychologically, you became stunted. So as time went on, let's say something happened to you when you were 6. And now you're 16 and 26 and 36 and 46, but in that one area or areas, you're still 6 years old. So you don't want to respond in a manner emotionally where you're going to make your symptoms worse. What you want to do is to be able to grow, not only psychologically, intellectually, as you're growing biologically, because that's just a given. I mean, every time you celebrate a birthday, you're getting older, physically. Does not mean you're getting older emotionally. For someone like myself who's been dealing with people for getting close to half a century on a daily basis, pretty much a daily basis, it's not really not amazing, because it's kind of average for most of all of us, that we're not, we haven't matured enough emotionally. And so you start to act like, you hear the saying, we've used the saying, but you act like a little kid. But believe me, I've had people that I've worked with, or people in my life, who, as they're not only senior citizens, they could be beyond, emotionally, they're only acting like they're 6, 7, 8 years old. The thing here, the real catch, is that they're not aware of it, because they've lived with it so long. It doesn't have to be a trauma that stunted you psychologically and emotionally. It could be just life in general has wore you down in such a way that you just haven't grown emotionally. For instance, another example would be you can meet people that have a very high IQ. That means they can figure out everything from logical puzzles, to mathematical problems, to answering questions with absolute pristine accuracy on history and so on and so forth. But get them on a certain line and emotionally they're just children. They're just acting like children. So what you want to do is you want to do the training that I talk so much here about, is to be able to say to yourself, well, how would a 40-year-old, 50, 60, or maybe you're just 25. I mean, how do people who are that age or ages, how are they supposed to respond at this stage of life? I'm really thinking about people who are older. How you know, if everything was, if it was a perfect world, how would someone who's lived for 60 years respond? And we would say, well, they're going to respond with a certain amount of calmness and experience and intelligence. But you know as well as I know, that's not the case, both for you and for me. But the difference with me is that I've been aware and cognizant of these truths in life for a long, long time. So I'm always working on myself. When I have some emotional response going on inside me, what I endeavor to do is not let it come out through my mouth. Sometimes it may show in my countenance, but you don't want to vent in that direction. Look at our political landscape. I mean, to me, it would be a good example. So many people who hold political positions, again, I am sure they're not aware of the fact that these are highly intelligent people, as are many actors, by the way, actresses, very intelligent people. But get them on a certain line, like politics, and they just shout and scream. I was watching a discussion between two highly public figures discussing some issue that we have going on in America. And before you know it, within a matter of minutes, one man is probably in his 40s to early 50s, the other one's early 70s, shouting at each other like kids. You know, correct me if I'm wrong. If you watch a newscast where there's an interview with two people, how often do you see people with opposing views talk rationally? Always arguing, screaming, acting like children. And just as an aside, my opinion on all of the present distress that we have in the world and in our country here in America, we're not going to win the day with emotions, the negative emotions. We're not going to win the day with pouring more anger on top of anger, pouring more fear and anxiety on top of fear and anxiety, with emotionalism. We're not going to win the day. For me, it's going to have to be done through prayer, having a moral compass, which is the Bible, God's laws and commandments, and intelligence. Because without that, your emotionalism is obfuscating your intellect. It's not giving you the ability to reason correctly about life, about your symptoms, and so on. So that's my question for you today. What is your emotional IQ? You're going to be guessing. Doesn't mean your guess is wrong, but just my experience is saying that it's probably not going to be totally accurate. So you want to be aware of how you respond to your own issues, right? So nervous symptoms, mental health is our issue, is our topic here. You want to be able to respond to your own problems that are correspondent to your actual age, which, when we get finished with the whole subject, is actually what the problem is. It's an emotional response to something that is not helping your symptoms. it's making them worse. So here's the assignment. Now, you have to train yourself to stay calm, cool, and even chilly when it comes to these distresses that you feel in your body, the thoughts that go through your brain, because they're going to, if you don't, they're going to grow worse. The thoughts are going to get worse. Feelings, sensations are going to get worse. You got to keep those three words in mind. Calm, cool, and chilly, especially if you're on the verge of a panic attack. You got to stay very calm. And as I always remind you, almost daily, it's not that easy to do. It's time to do the training and to get your emotional IQ elevated to the point where you can deal with your symptoms and deal with your issues with your health, mental health, physical health too, intelligently, calmly, cool, and chilly, almost stoic. So let me pray for you today that God would help you to grow emotionally so that you can have the advantage over your own nervous symptoms. Father, I pray that this short lesson would really make an impact on those that watch, and that they would be able to do the training to grow emotionally so that they can look at their situation objectively and not so much subjectively. Give them that ability and help them to grow emotionally. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, that's all I have for you for today. What is your emotional IQ? Take a guess. In either case, do the training, grow yourself emotionally, calm, cool, chilly. It's not easy, but it's got to be done. All right, if you'd like to be part of this small group, just subscribe, hit the notification button, and we'll be good to go. And as I say every day, share these broadcasts with someone. That's a good thing to do for your own health, is to help somebody else. If you'd like to be part of it, just subscribe. Hit the notification button. And for those of you who are with me and are subscribed, share these broadcasts with somebody else. I don't know how the weather's going to be. Someone just passed me by and told me it's going to be cold. But we can deal with cold as long as it's not raining or whatever. So I hope to be with you here outside tomorrow on the Oasis. And as always, I encourage you every day, no matter what. And this is part of the calm, cool, chilly. Always let the peace of God rule in your heart. If you do, you're going to go a long, long way towards procuring the final cure, deliverance from these fears, anxieties, depressions that trouble you so much. All right, God bless. Make sure the peace of God rules in your heart. Lord willing, I'll be with you here again tomorrow on the Oasis.